It is very, very fun to watch. So I think the last thing that we need to talk about is obviously the Celtics playoff aspirations. It's amazing what one little run can do because I remember tweeting almost every single game they played, sell at the deadline because they were horrible into mid-December, into early January. They were really, really bad. And the tip of the iceberg for me was that Christmas Day game against the Bucks where they were up like it was like a tale of two halves, and basically what the Celtics have gotten rid of in the second half of the season is huge lead, blew it against the Bucks, and we're talking if they don't blow those games in the first half of the season, they're probably the one seed in the East. They blew so many double-digit leads in the first half, to the point where I was full blown sell at the deadline, and even talking about finding a trade partner for someone like Jaylen Brown, because you went from we have two stars, we need to find that third one to build around them, to are we the team that is actually trading one of these stars to another team that's looking for that third guy? But as far as the playoffs now, they're the 5 seed. They're very close to the 4 seed. I think they're a half game behind Chicago. I think they're 2 back of the 2nd seed, and then obviously 4 back of the 1 seed. What do we think the ceiling is for this for the Celtics in this postseason? I'll start with Jeremy.
Okay, so first of all, you have to make it to the second round. I think anything worse than that is a failure. I think if you lose in 5 games to any of these opponents, it's a failure. I believe in the Celtics team that much. You should be going 6-7 games with whoever you lose to, and the team that you lose to should be the eventual champion. That's just me. I think that any of these Eastern Conference teams could even take the Suns if they needed to, or you lose to the Suns in the finals. But that's another thing. The only teams that I right now would take that over the Celtics are the Bucks and the Nets. Bucks for their playoff pedigree and the fact that they've been there, done that last year. The Nets for the fact that I think when Simmons gets back, and he will, I think they've been hiding him so that way he doesn't have to play Philly tonight, actually, at the time of recording this. And you have him, Kyrie, playing half the games, still funny, and Durant. I mean, playoff Durant is another beast, and they are going to be getting all the calls, too. We have to remember that as well. Playoff whistles will usually go to the stars.
That's true.
So right now I would take the Bucks, and I would take the Nets over the Celtics in a 7-game series. I think both of them would be 6-7-game thrillers. And anyone else that you lose to, what are you doing? Like, it's a failure. That's what because it was so much promise. And I know they started out the season really well, but they're 0-14 against the top 3 seeds in both conferences. If you lost to the Bulls in a playoff series, that's not good.
That's
not
failure.
good at all. You have to beat the Bulls. You have to beat the Cavs, the Hawks, the Heat even. Is there anyone else I'm forgetting that's pretty obvious? Like, I think you could take all of these teams.
I don't know if you said the Cavs, right?
Yeah. And
I think you should beat Philly.
Sixers at all, really?
I think you should beat Philly.
So,
I think they match up really well against Philly.
That's the swing vote, and I'm not sure about that because I think that you could have easily taken them without Harden. With Harden, it gets infinitely harder. Yeah, exactly.
It hardens. The odds harden.
I don't know. I don't know who'd win that series. I'm going to lean on the Celtics defense and the fact that they've been able to frustrate Embiid in previous matchups. But with Harden and Maxey, who's just absolutely insane, like that's
40 free throws a game right there.
That's a really tall order, and I think it comes down to how often Rob Williams can stay out of foul trouble, as Jordan was just alluding to.
Yeah, I think you should be able to beat Philly. I think this team should be able to beat Philly. Now, it's one of those where if they lost in 6 games, I'm going to tip my hat. It's their time. I mean, Embiid's never going to have a season where he's this healthy and dominant, and then obviously Harden is there with him. That's an elite duo that you really haven't been able to game plan for. I know obviously you will be able to in a 7-game series, but if you lost that series in 6, it wouldn't be a shame, but I think they should beat them, and I'd be disappointed if they didn't. Pat, what do you think the ceiling is for this team?
I agree with everything you boys have said about, the teams they should beat and the teams that if they lose to, I wouldn't be disappointed. The Nets, Bucks, and even the Sixers. I'd be like, all right, yeah, that team they've been there before. They've done it. They've got the talent. I'm not upset. The only team I think they really can't beat is the Suns. I think the Suns
I think they could.
The most efficient fourth quarter offense of all time. They have, in my opinion, the greatest point guard of all time. Probably second behind Magic.
Yeah.
And an elite ball shot creator in Devin Booker, an elite wing defender in Mikal Bridges.
I knew that was coming.
Well, he's going to shut down Jalen or Jason. So
yeah, but I think what I would lean on there is I think that there are enough subpar defenders, a.k.a. Booker and Paul, that you can get enough, and you can shut down their opponent.
Well, the problem the problem is the Celtics' best lineup. They can hide their subpar defenders on Smart and White.
That's a good point.
The
But hey,
Celtics
as Smart
really
is
want to
balling
try
like he
out
has
their best,
been,
like their death lineup to invoke the old Warriors days.
who covers Tatum?
I think that'd be
Probably,
Bridges.
probably,
So who covers Brown? I'm unclear
Crowder.
on who. But
Yeah.
again, I like that those odds.
I like that. I
love
like
Jay,
that
but
matchup,
man,
but I think Jay does enough to kind of quiet Brown a little bit, especially since Jalen plays so recklessly sometimes, and in the finals he's going to be out of his mind trying to
Really,
go out
the
there
only
and prove
guy
that
who
he's
really
that
scares
dude
me
as
that
well.
much from the Western Conference is Chris Paul. Chris Paul.
I really love the idea of a final series between these two, though. Imagine Bob
me too, because I'll be here for it.
Bob and Ayton bumping down low in the post. Like
Ayton's baby food to me. I mean, I know Rob's not built like Mitchell Robinson, but watching Ayton get tossed around by Mitchell Robinson the other night, I know he came back and played really well against the Bucks and with Giannis covering him, but the Ayton does that a lot from time to time. I honestly think the Celtics would own the front court advantage. And I think that series, if they did make the finals against the Suns, I think that series would come down to whether or not you can get 40% 3-point shooting from Al Horford, because he's going to get open a lot. Because they're going to crash on Tatum, they're going to crash on Brown. Someone's going to be open in the corner. I mean, I guess if you can get 40% from one of Smart and Horford, and the other one shoots like 35-ish%, 35 to 37%, I like your chances a lot. I really do.
I agree with Pat though when he said that the only team and specifically player that he's scared of in the West is probably Chris Paul. The Warriors have been so streaky all year. I love your chances against the Grizzlies. I love your chances against Dallas. I love your chances against Denver. I think all of those teams, they're so heavily leaning on one player, and you have waves of defenders that you can throw at those teams. Maybe not the Warriors. The Warriors obviously are different, but they've been so Jekyll and Hyde all year. I know we touched on it earlier, but I don't know what to expect from them. I don't think that they're not built for deep playoff run just because they've been so streaky. They're going to lose 4 games at some point. But I mean, the Suns have been wire to wire the best team in the league, and Pat's right. I mean, Chris Paul got a taste of the finals last year, and he wants that ring. He's going to be geared up and going for it.
It's the last thing he needs, and then he can ride off into the sunset after making $40 million next year.
And he might be fresh because he's coming off of that thumb surgery.
Yep. I honestly, if there was a time to get hurt, there's never a good time to get hurt. But Chris Paul found the right time to get hurt. Like
the Suns clinched a playoff berth last night. I posted about it. They clinched a freaking playoff berth with like 17 games to go in the regular season. They've
been nuts. They've been nuts. I was so wrong on them. I thought they were going, like, last year was their year, the COVID year. They all got hot at the right time. They were a very emotional team. One of the few teams in the postseason that started the postseason with, I think, at least 50% capacity for fans. They just kind of rode that wave. I thought they were going to crash and burn this year, not necessarily miss the playoffs, be like a 6 seed. Oh my Lord, was I wrong. They are filthy. And Cam Johnson's like basically baby Booker off the bench. Like, he's an absolute flamethrower. That dude would win. I think if the Celtics and Suns, by the way, my ceiling is I can see this team winning the finals. That's my ceiling for them. Realistically speaking, get out of the second round. I think if they lost in the conference finals, I would think that would be a successful season, especially with where they started. But I think if they faced the Suns, the MVP of that series would be Cam Johnson. He'd average like 25 off the bench.
No, I could totally see that. I mean, who are the Celtics going to trot out off the bench to guard it?
Derek White can't do it.
White.
They don't have anyone.
Neesmith? Grant, I guess.
No. You'd have to commit.
Defender.
You'd have to commit one of the Jays on them and bring in Grant for additional height, which I find funny. So after years of being small ball and tiny centers like Horford, the Celtics had Jason Tatum as the 2. A couple of nights ago, they rolled with the triple big after Neesmith got hurt.
They were great.
Grant,
it was
Horford,
great.
Rob, Tatum, and I want to say it was like Smart, and they were really good.
Smart.
They beat who was it? Was it the
Memphis.
Grizzlies?
Yeah, it was Memphis.
I mean,
They might have to trot that out in a series against Brooklyn. They might actually have to trot that out for real minutes.
Yeah, Drummond, Aldridge, Griffin, Durant.
Ime revolutionizing
Durant
how
the one. That'd be nasty.
Ime's revolutionizing how other teams play defense, because I was watching the Suns against the Bucks and they had a double big lineup featuring JaVale McGee and Bismack Biyombo. I'm like, what the hell is this? I'm like, big business and JaVale McGee. Like what on earth? By the way, JaVale McGee's carved out a really nice career, like low key.
Oh, yeah,
he's got 2 rings already. He might have 3 after this year.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think that's everything.
Yeah,
I think
we covered it pretty well.
Yeah. All right. Any last thoughts from anybody
I
other
can't
than
wait to do
Banner
one.
18's coming?
I can't wait to do one of these again when we're getting ready for the playoffs and Celtics are sitting in the 2 seed.
I can't wait to do a one after that where we're crying because they somehow lost to like Brooklyn in the first round.
Yeah.
was-
Brooklyn's gonna be like the 7th seed.
Brooklyn's gonna sneak
We're
into the.
screwed.
Okay, really
That'd be
quickly,
so frustrating.
my last comment is everyone's talking about how great the Nets are going to be as a 7 seed. If they're in that spot or they're in the 8 seed, I think to make the playoffs, to have a play-in game, they're hosting that game. Kyrie can't play that game.
Well, if
I
they're
love
the
that.
8, they're not hosting it because they play the 7.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. If they're in
And
the
then if
7
they
seed, have to
lose, then
host-
they face the
who would
winner
they
of the
be- who would
9
they
and
be
10.
hosting? Let me just check real quick. If the season
Like
ended
the
today.
Wizards.
I don't think it's the Wizards. I think it's let me check.
Charlotte? Might be
Eastern
Charlotte.
Conference, the 8 seed. Oh, the Brooklyn Nets are the 8 seed right now.
Yeah.
So they'd be facing. Oh, they'd be in Toronto. So Kyrie can't play.
Oh,
Kyrie
so
can't
that.
play there either.
play that either.
So really, at this point, you're kind of either hoping if you're Brooklyn that you completely crash and burn and fall to the 9 seed where you'd be hosting, or no, you'd still be hosting. You fall to the 10 seed and be going to Atlanta. I could see them winning that. Or you get on your horse. I don't know. There's no shot they make it out of the play-in round right now, or make it out of play-in territory. They're 4.5 back at Cleveland for 6.
So I get final word on this. I saw, I think it was Zach Harper tweeted out, "Yo, Kyrie's home road splits are insane this year," or something like that, which I thought was hilarious. That's all I had to add.
And who knows? I mean, the laws and rules keep changing, so Kyrie might be allowed to play in New York by the
He
time.
might. No shot.
That'd
he
be
plays
such a
in
shame.
Toronto,
I'd be
though.
so
There's no
upset.
chance that's going to change. If they go to Toronto, there's no chance.
No,
Oh,
yeah,
no,
for
no,
sure.
no.
They just
No,
got back to full attendance.
Yeah, there's no shot Kyrie will be able to play in Toronto. I also think, sorry, this is the last, I swear it's the last thing I have to say. I'm not entirely convinced that Ben Simmons, like, what do we have to base it on that Ben Simmons, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie are even going to work? They haven't played together yet.
I mean,
Well,
he's
they
not
could
going to take shots away from the two of them, which I think
He
is what
won't.
they want.
He won't. But as far as floor spacing is concerned, like, are they going to roll him out with a 5? And they could, I guess.
I mean, you can roll him out at the 4 with like Aldridge.
That's true. And he would make up for the fact that LaMarcus Aldridge is slower than molasses at this point.
Yeah.
He got blown by Grant Williams. Like, dude, retire, retire, old man.
But I think Ben Simmons is the best thing they can add to that. I think my hot take for the afternoon is that Ben Simmons has the potential to be the best version of Draymond Green we've ever seen.
That's a great take.
We
Ben
haven't
Simmons,
seen it yet, and I'll admit that, but I think the potential is there.
for a few years, he was the guy that I wanted the Celtics to have as their center because I think him is the. I mean, but they could play small.
Be the fastest, most versatile offense and defense.
Exactly, and I think as far as switchability goes, could you imagine? I mean, we talk about not being able to shoot.
Replace
Rob
Ben
and
Simmons.
Ben Simmons as their front court.
Replace Amir Johnson with Ben Simmons on that Celtics team and see what happens.
Yeah.
They probably would have won a couple more games
Would've been
against the Cavs and then
such a
still
meme.
lost every game by 50 after. But
Yeah, it's fine. All right.
all right, yeah. Let's. So that'll do it for this edition of Massholes, Mike. It was good to be back. It's been forever. It's been like 2
I
months.
got
haven't been
Pat on the
this
show.
edition of Joe. It's been a minute, so
Pat has yet to be on a YouTube version. So
Yeah.
that's the first time people
So
will
y'all
get to
Well, I had
see
to
y'all
put on
can
the
see-
suit. If I knew I was going to be on camera.
Y'all get to see that Pat is 5'8", 142 pounds, and is a point guard.
Cheers.
Hopefully that sneaks into the box. Cheers.
I don't know if it will. We'll see. We'll
It's a
try.
swig of wine. We love it. We'll probably do another one of these right around the time the playoffs start. Hopefully the Celtics are the 2 seed by then.
Maybe some baseball stuff too.
Maybe, perhaps. I mean, maybe Carlos Correa a Red Sox. Last.
As it is now ratified, I'm allowed to say things like Rafael Devers and say,
Just says names.
All right, that'll do it for this edition of Massholes with Mikes. For Pat and Jeremy, I am Jordan Leandry, and have a great rest of your day, guys.
Peace.
Fantastic.